Hello guys, today I'm going to talk about a very important question type in your test, that is write from dictation. Or in other words, you have to listen to someone saying something and you have to write it, and based on how well you write it, you get the points. In this video, I'll talk about 4 different points, important points for this question. First is, especially for the beginners, what happens in the test and how the questions are asked in the test. After that, the second step will look at the scoring criteria, how you are scored in the test and how you can get more score by understanding the scoring pattern. After that, in the third step, we'll look into some skills required to answer these questions, as well as some tips which can enhance your score in the final test. And at the end, we'll look into some practice methods which can help you to improve your short-term memory so that you can remember more, you can remember better, and write the complete sentence and get the points you're looking for. So let's get started with our first point, that is what happens in the test. So in the test, as I already told you, you listen to someone dictating to you what to write and you write it. So how is that done? Let me show you the actual exam interface. So in the exam, what you do is, as I said, you listen to a recording, and this is our practice software where I'm going to show you this.
Climate change is an acknowledged phenomenon among reputable scientists.
So just like this, you listen to a sentence. Now you have to write this sentence as it is, without missing a word, without adding a word, and writing everything accurately. And based on how many words you can get correctly, you get the points. So it's straightforward. You listen to someone saying something, and then you write it on the computer. You type it. And based on how well you do it, you get points. So how are you scored then? How do you get the points? What are the important criteria for getting higher points that you need to remember for the test? Let's talk about that as well. Now, the criteria is very simple, as I told you. You just listen to someone saying something and you try your best to write that sentence as accurately as possible. And this is one of those few questions in your test where there is partial scoring. Partial scoring means that the types of questions where you can get partial points or get points by being partially correct is called partial scoring system. So what that means is, let's say that you are listening to a sentence which has 10 words, and out of those 10 words, let's say you can remember 8 words. Now, what that means is you'll get at least 8 points out of 10. So this is called partial scoring. Now, based on how many words you get correctly from the sentence, let's say that you heard 4 sentences, each sentence containing 10 words, that means you heard 40 words. And out of 40 words, how many words did you get correctly? Let's say in total you got 38 words correctly, that means you will get 38 points. Now, because you listen and then you write, this question contributes a score to both your listening as well as your writing. And interestingly, and this is a very important point as well, it is the most important question for both listening and writing. For listening, it contributes somewhere around 35 to 40 points, and the same applies to writing as well. That means for writing also, you get around 30 to 40 points from this question type, depending on the number of questions as well as the number of words in each question. That means in each sentence. What that also means is, if you really want to get good score in your test, and especially if you have already appeared in the test and you struggled with your listening and writing score, this is one of those few questions which could be the culprit, which could be the reason for low score. So any student who is appearing in the test must know how to do well in this question type. So as I said, this question contributes a score to both listening and writing, because you listen and you write, which means if you are struggling with the score in this section, what do you need to work on? Which skills do you need to work on? You need to work on your listening skill as well as your writing skill. Now, if I say just listening skill, that is quite vague. I mean, what kind of listening skill? What specifically should I practice? Should I learn? Which kind of skills in listening should I learn? Or in writing, what kind of things I should learn, should practice? These are the kind of things you should learn. These are the kind of things that you should worry about, or you should think about. And let me tell you about these things one by one. So you already know the scoring criteria. Skills. As I said, you need two kinds of skills here. The first skill, as I said, is listening skill. Now, in terms of listening, of course, you should learn to listen to all kinds of accents. Be familiar with all types of accents, all varieties of standard English, so that you don't have any problem with that. In order to do that, my suggestion is to go to tet.com and listen to the recordings there. Listen to different recordings by different speakers from around the world. Now, this is a very important website and very important resource material, because based on my experience, I've found many of your retail lecture questions, summarized spoken text questions, actually come from tet.com. Not just that, highlight, correct, summary, multiple choice question. A lot of questions you'll find are based on the recordings available on this website. And the other benefit is, because here there are people from all around the world, and not all of them have English as the first language, you'll be able to listen to experts of different topics in speaking in different accents, which will help you to get better in listening to different accents. So this is one thing. Otherwise, if you are our student, if you are practicing on our website, which is completely free, you can listen to recordings from different sources, from different parts of the world. And because of that, you'll be able to understand and practice listening to different kind of accents. So two options: go to tet.com and practice there, or just go to romanpt.com and practice in romanpt.com. Okay, these are your two options: romanpt.com or tet.com. One of them can help you to improve your ability to listen to different accents. The second thing is, be careful with homophones. Now, homophones are words which have similar. Homo means similar, and phones means sound. These are the words which have similar sound. And there is no way to figure out what the speaker actually said, because the sound is almost the same. And in order to understand the word, you have to make a habit of understanding the context, or understanding the word based on the context. As an example, if I tell you site, I could have said site like this. I could have said site like this. I could also have said site like this. But if we know the meaning of different words which have similar sound, we can easily figure out what the person said. If I say, for example, I'll meet you at the site, I'm saying this one. I think I'm losing my sight, this one. You should cite the sources, I'm saying this one. So see, if you know the context, it's not that confusing or difficult. But if you don't know the context, or if you don't know the meaning of the words, then it can be a problem. So go through the list of homophones and make sure that you can distinguish these homophones based on the meaning and the context in which they were used in the exam. It will be quite helpful. So these are two basic listening skills that I think you should work on: being able to listen to people speaking English in different accents, and being able to distinguish what you heard, especially in terms of the homophones, so that you know which word you actually heard, so that you can guess which word is more contextual choice. That's about listening. But what about the writing part? What kind of skills do you require in writing part? Because this is a question of listening and writing, of course, they want to see how good you are in both the sections. So when it comes to writing, the thing that you need to know first is, of course, you have to write all the words correctly with correct spelling. So the first is, of course, spelling. Now, again, the difficult part here sometimes is First, we all are using computers these days, or typing on the mobile phones and searching on Google, where we don't really need to think about a spelling that much. We even if we type wrong, Google will just correct it and show us the correct spelling. If we are typing on Microsoft Word, there will be that red squiggly line which tells us that the spelling is incorrect, and then I don't have to retype it. I just have to click on the right button and choose the correct spelling of that word. See, things have become so much easier. And because of that, in the exam, when we have to think about the spelling of certain words, even if that's a very simple word, it becomes difficult. So, especially for the exam, you have to make sure that you know the spelling of the words by heart. And because you have to learn things by heart, what you have to do is you have to do a focused study. You have to learn certain kind of words which are more likely to appear in the test, so that your chances of misspelling them becomes lower, and so that you can spend your time on only important stuff. So the first kind of word, of course, is words from the academic word list. So you can download the academic word list on the internet. If you search for academic word list on Google, you can download it from the internet. But if you want to download the specific academic word list, then go to our website romanpt.com, from where you can download this. Okay, and if you can't find out, we have a live chat button on our website. Speak with one of us and we'll help you. And this is very important for you to learn, because these words frequently appear in the test, and you must make sure that you know how to spell all the words in this list. Now, the second list, which is important for you, is commonly misspelled words. Commonly misspelled words, this is a list of words which people often misspell regardless of their background. What I mean by that is, even if you are a native speaker, you are likely to misspell these words. For example, the words like recommendation or accommodation. Now, you might be wondering, you are writing them without any problem. The reason for that is, I know these words are confusing, and I have a strategy to remember the spelling of these kind of words. Rather than trying to memorize the whole word, what I try to do is I try to think in this way. Accommodation has double C and double M. Recommendation has single C and double M. So I have created a list with this kind of tips as well. You can go through the list and it will help you to remember the spelling of this kind of words. Fortunately, these types of words are not that frequently used, but every word carries 1 point. That means even if they are used, let's say 2 or 3 times in 2 or 3 sentences, you might lose 2 or 3 points, and that might be the points, that might only be the points you need to cross 79, for example. So everything is important for people looking for 79 and above, and you have to go through these 2 lists and learn how to spell the words in these 2 lists. That's about the spelling, and that's the skill related to writing. What is the other skill? Of course, the other skill is grammatical form of the word. It's not enough to just spell the word. You should also be grammatically aware. That means while reading the sentence, you must be able to figure out logically that that word is in incorrect form. So if you hear something like many books are missing from the library, you must be able to say that many book is not possible, because many should be followed by books. So that is called grammatical awareness. Grammar is important. So in case of grammar, you must be able to figure out the form of the word. Especially we struggle with plural and singular and past and present. Actually, if you learn a little bit about plural and singular and past and present form of different verbs, I don't think it will be that much confusing. For example, if someone says, I have booked my exam, now even if this last ed sound is quite soft and may not be able to figure out just by listening to the speaker, if you look at the construction of this sentence, you can easily see that this word is coming after have, and we know that after has, have, had, we need third form of the verb, or the past participle form of the verb, and that's why it has to be booked. As I said, many books, several ideas, and so on. So when you write something, don't just write what you hear, read it and see if everything you are writing there is making sense or not. And let me tell you one experience I had in the exam. In one of my exams, I'm 100% sure that I heard the combination many idea were rejected. And here I knew that the sentence was wrong because we cannot say many idea. It has to be ideas. Not just that, this verb was also telling me. So when you are looking at the sentences and you are not sure what you should write, look for the clues like quantifiers. Quantifiers means words which tell you about the quantity of something. Many is a word which is used for more than one. That's why any word that comes after this should be in plural. So the quantity should be plural. Or a verb like this, plural verb, is only used with a plural subject. Here the subject is idea. So based on these two logics, I can say that it should be where. So use your grammatical logic. That's really important. Your sentence should be grammatically complete. In many cases, we don't even need to think about it. We just know what we have to say. But in some cases, we may not remember these kind of things, or we may feel confused. In such situation, it's very important and it's crucial that we think grammatically and pick the right grammatical form of the word. Now, even in grammar, in addition to plural and singular and past and present, there are two other things which are not that frequently used or asked in the exam, but are still important for you to learn. And they are, the first one is capitalization. You have to learn how to where to capitalize and which words need to be capitalized. Capitalization means there are two important things for your exam to remember. First is the first word should start with a capital letter. First word should start with the capital letter. Second thing is, if you can't remember the first word, second word should not start with the capital letter. Start it with a small letter. First word, if you remember, write in the capital letter. Second word, let's say you don't remember the first word and you are starting with second, third, fourth words, then in such cases, start them with a small letter, because the system compares what you have written with the words it has in the database, and it is case sensitive. That means if the word in the database is capital and the word you have on your answer has a small letter, then you will not get points for that word despite being grammatically correct, despite spelling out the word correctly. So very important thing to remember. The next thing that you need to remember is punctuation. Again, it is not extremely important for your test because you don't really have to know all the rules of punctuation, simply because you are listening to one sentence only. And in one sentence, the most commonly or one punctuation mark that is always used is full stop. Every sentence should end in a full stop, and doesn't matter whether you remember the last two words or not, last one word or not. If you are ending the sentence, put a full stop, because as per the sentence on the database, every sentence there at the end will have a full stop. So when they compare and they find that, then that means you'll get the points for that. So every sentence must end in full stop. This is something that you need to compare with capitalization. In capitalization, I said that you start the sentence with capital letter only if you remember the first word. But in full stop, what I'm saying is you have to put full stop in every sentence, because every sentence, whether or not you remember the last few words, should end in full stop. Another important thing is there are certain kind of sentence structures in English which require comma. Now, I can't go in detail talking about all of them, but try to find out information about four different sentence structures in English and where to put comma in these structures. Now, one is called simple sentence. Learn about the sentence types. That's all I'm saying. Simple sentence. Then we have compound sentence. Then we have mixed sentence. And we have mixed compound sentence. I'm not going into the details of different types of sentences here in this video, but I suggest that you find out about these sentences and learn the concept of compound sentence, and mixed compound sentences. This will help you in repeat sentence. This will help you in write from dictation. And it will also help you in deciding where to put the comma while writing the sentence. So this is the skill part, as well as the tips. Tips, as I said, if you are starting with the second word, then in that case, second word cannot be capital. Always put a full stop at the end. In addition to this, there are certain other tricks, not tips, tricks, which can help you in getting the score. And these tricks, you have to be careful while using them, because these are not actually tricks. These are actually the glitches in the software that Pearson uses. Because of the inability of the software to figure out certain things, we can manipulate the system a little bit. What that means is, let's say that I'm not exactly sure whether I heard the pen or a pen or just pen. Let's say the sentence is, please give me a pen. And I'm not sure whether it was a pen or the pen. In this case, if I write the pen, then what happens is it will only pick please give me a and pen as correct word, and we'll ignore this one. So not a mistake, it will just ignore this and I'll get my points. I'm getting full points, although my sentence actually has 6 words and the original sentence had 5 words. Still, the 5 words that I have in my sentence match with the 5 words in the actual sentence, so I'll get full points, full marks. This is one trick you can use in the exam. You are not sure whether you should write a or the, write both of them. You are not sure whether you heard in, on, or at, write all of them. You are not sure whether you heard book or books, write both of them. So this is a trick that you can use. But as I said, this is a glitch, not actually a trick. This is a problem in the software. So they might fix it at any time. You have to be careful about that as well. Always ask your friends who have just appeared in the test whether they used this trick or not, and whether the trick is still working or not. For the same reason, I appear in the test every now and then just to see if some of the tricks that I'm sharing with the students are still working or not. So, that's another thing to keep in mind. Now, the last part of today's discussion, that is, how should you practice? Because often the complaint of many students is, I don't have a good short-term memory. I can't remember the sentence. First thing you have to remember is, this is PTE, not PTM. This is Pearson's test of English, not Pearson's test of memory. They're not trying to do a memory competition here. They're not trying to assess your memory. Short-term memory can help in learning any skills, including language. But the benefit of, or the importance of short-term memory in language and the importance of short-term memory in learning other things is slightly different. As an example, if you tell me 10 random numbers right now and ask me to repeat them in the exact same order, most likely I'll not be able to do that, because those numbers will not be related to each other in any way. So remembering one number will not help me to remember the next number, because there is no link between them. There is no theme between these numbers. There is not a theme that can bind these numbers together. But in case of sentences, most of the sentences are based on a theme, based on an idea. And in some sentences, there can be more than one idea, but in most of the sentences you will hear in the exam, there will be just one idea. And those ideas can be broken down into smaller ideas, which we call phrases. So what are phrases? Phrases are just smaller ideas which answer the questions like who, or where, or why, or when, or how, and so on. So when you are practicing these questions, try to break these sentences into smaller ideas. The whole idea should be broken down into smaller ideas. And that will help you to remember the phrases, and you'll have fewer things to memorize as well. As an example, in this sentence, Professor Smith said, this is one idea. He will be late. This is another idea. For today's lecture, this is the third idea. Professor Smith said he will be late for today's lecture. And when you listen to sentences, if you now keep these things in mind, one thing you will notice is even the speakers speak in phrases. They don't speak in one breath. They speak with micro pauses between their phrases. So rather than saying, Professor Smith will be late for today's lecture, they'll say, Professor Smith said he'll be late for today's lecture. Like this. Now, if we go to our sentence, you can see that the first part is telling us who said. Professor Smith said. He will be late. What will happen? He will be late. When? For today's lecture. So you can see that if you make a habit of thinking like this, when, why, where, then you'll be able to break the sentences into phrases quite easily. And another important thing to remember is in every phrase, you'll find that there are few words which are very important to remember because they help you to remember the other words. And there are few words which you can actually logically write yourself. As an example, here, Professor Smith perhaps is more important than said. He and late are more important. Today's and lecture are more important. The reason for that is Professor Smith, this is a noun, he, a pronoun, late, this is an adverb, and today's and lecture, these are again nouns. Now, what I'm trying to say here is in every sentence, you'll find two kinds of words which carry certain meaning, and words which are just used for the structure. Technically, we call them content words and function words. Function words are used because we have to write a sentence in a grammatically correct manner, and meaning words are used because that's the main idea we are trying to impart. That's the main idea we are trying to present. So, Professor Smith said, here, Professor Smith is very important for us to remember. He will be late for today's lecture. Now, in this part, he will be late, even if I don't remember will and be, or let's say don't write this just for the timing. Let's say I'm just saying he late today's lecture. Professor Smith late today's lecture. If someone says just this much only, even then you'll be able to remember what the sentence actually means. Professor Smith late today's lecture means you will get the idea that Professor Smith will be late for today's lecture. So make a habit of focusing on the content words so that you have fewer things to remember and it's easier for you to remember the sentence. So what is the gist of this? What I'm saying is every sentence is made up of words. We all know that. But these are not just random words put in random order. These are words put in a definite order as dictated by the rules of grammar, as mandated by the rules of grammar. These words come in definite order. Most of these words come together quite often, so they will sound better together and you will be able to remember them together as well. So make a habit of breaking the sentence into phrases which contains words which together constitute a meaning, a particular meaningful idea. Make a habit of breaking sentences into phrases like this. Usually there will be three phrases. The first will tell you about who, the middle will usually tell you about what happened, and the last usually will tell you about when, where, why, and so on. This is one thing. Second thing is inside these phrases, there are certain words which are more important than the others, which we call meaning words or content words. There are certain words which we just use to write a grammatically correct sentence. These are called function words. So if you make a habit of listening for the phrases, focusing on the content words, you will see a dramatic improvement in your short-term memory for language. And you'll be able to remember the sentences more correctly. As you practice more, you'll also start seeing the pattern, like this word always comes with this word. This word always comes before this word. These two words always come together, and so on. So for example, will be is a very common combination of word, will be. Right? So these kind of things we don't actually have to remember separately as separate items. We'll just remember because of our long-term memory. Our short-term memory should be used to remember the content words. So these are a few things that you should do to improve your skills for write from dictation. Now what should you do? As I said, all the questions on our websites are currently free to practice. So I want you to go to our website right now and start practicing these questions. There are more than 1400 questions here on the website for Write From Dictation. If you practice these questions right now, go through all the questions, I think it will be more than enough for you to get your desired score. I hope I have been able to share some important information with you, which will help you to get your desired score. But I also know that you might still have few questions left, or you may have a lot of questions left. Write them in the comments. I'll answer each one of them one by one. Or otherwise, every Sunday, I run these live classes for free where you can ask me all questions or any question about PTE test. If you think this video was useful, share it with your friends, send them in personal messages. If you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. If you don't want to miss future videos, click on the bell icon and keep practicing. Go to romanpt.com, practice more than 7,000 free practice questions. All the best for your test and stay safe.